Hello, friends, and welcome to the most glorious of events, the Movie Mavericks podcast. This outstanding program is hosted by two fine gentlemen, Jason and Trevor. Now make it so.
MovieMavericks.com.
Hey now everybody, welcome to episode 384 of the Movie Mavericks podcast. I'm Trevor Anderson. Since you have Jason Rugard, he's got a rundown for us.
On today's episode, we are going to be talking about the recent Netflix release, Murder Mystery 2, the M3GAN film, which is basically a Child's Play takeoff, and The Whale, which Trevor thought was the best film of last year, and our thoughts on Clerks III, the final chapter in Kevin Smith's trilogy. Also looking at the trailers for Renfield, About My Father, the Sebastian Maniscalco and Robert De Niro film, and Asteroid City, the latest from Wes Anderson. Got a packed show, but we're going to start it off with a little bit of trivia. The little trivia game that Trevor has over there, the machine. What does the trivia, the Zoltan machine, tell us today?
Let's do it. Yeah, right. Okay, it says 223. Let's look this bitch up.
It's giving us homework already.
This is the hardest part is just finding the damn question in the book, you know?
So what is it? It's like a handheld device that correlates with a trivia book?
I mean, I've shown people this before. I think there's a YouTube video, actually, for one of our episodes that actually shows a picture of this. It's called Obsessed with Hollywood. It's a book, 2,500 questions, and it has a little electronic device down in, like, the lower right-hand corner. It'll pick a random number, and then you look up that question and the number, and then you put in what your guess is for it, and then it'll tell you if you're right or wrong.
All right. It's easy enough. Let's see where we're at.
We got the icons is the category here.
Okay, I feel confident about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that. It has a picture of Denzel Washington, so that's good.
He's iconic.
In the 1996 version of Hamlet, Jack Lemmon filled the role of which character? Polonius, Ghost, Marcellus, or Claudius?
Polonius.
Really? I don't remember. I actually don't remember Jack Lemmon being in that movie. So we'll go Polonius. That's a no.
Oh, okay.
The answer was Marcellus.
Oh, how dare I forget that?
I don't even remember him being in it.
I mean, that was a 4-hour film I saw 2 decades ago. 3 decades ago, almost now. So the worst part about that is I know Kenneth Branagh was in it. He directed it. I know what year it came out, but I didn't remember what fucking role Jack Lemmon played in it. Talk about being miscast.
I personally, I like the Mel Gibson one better.
Let's do another one. Let me clear my palate here. I didn't feel very confident about that one.
1554. So this is the characters, it says. So Glenn Close. In what film does Close play a character named Iris Gaines? We have The Paper, The Natural, The Big Chill, or Fatal Attraction.
Fatal Attraction.
I know that would be my guess as well. We'll see. No, we're wrong.
Well, I'll tell you what.
It is B, The Natural.
I will tell you this. She was also... No. I'm going to give you my own trivia here. Fuck this. She was also Mel Gibson's mother in the 1990 version of Hamlet that you just brought up. I just tied those in.
This book is hard. I'm not
All right, let's do one more. Give me one more. I need to have a victory.
We'll get it here.
Give me a win before the night's over.
I don't know if I can guarantee that, but... Oh, God.
Well,
Good Will Hunting centers around an incredibly intelligent young man who works as a college custodian. He ultimately befriends a community college psychologist. What is the man's name? The Robin Williams character's name. Sean McGuire, Gerald Lambeau, Brent Bates, Dick Enright.
Sean McGuire. It's a nice Boston name.
That was the ding of yes.
Yeah, okay.
So we got one right, so we're done.
All right, good.
Because
I'm leaving on a
we
win.
want to save these questions so we don't do doubles. Even though I bet you if we had a double, we'd get it wrong as well. So
yeah, that was hard tonight.
They're so specific. It's like if I haven't seen that movie in a while, I don't fucking know.
Well, I remember Sean McGuire. I did recall that for some reason. I don't know why.
I didn't. I had no
felt
idea.
Right. I'm curious what Glenn Close's name was in Fatal Attraction. I could have swore it was Iris, but
Pussy Galore.
I wanna
Alex
talk about
Forrest.
Alex, that was right. She had a
That is
masculine
right.
name in that.
Alex
Yes.
Forrest and Alex. Yep.
That's Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction.
It's rough when you hear it and you're like, yeah, why didn't I know that?
I hate
I
that
did know
shit.
that.
Yeah, it's just you're getting older and there's just too much data on your hard drive. You got to search through, right?
Maybe.
I gotta defrag this thing. Okay, let's move on and talk about tonight's movies. And the first movie on the list is Murder Mystery 2. This is the sequel to the Netflix original that premiered about 4 years ago with Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston. This represents their third teaming up, and I think that this is an extremely forgettable, rather inept comedy with a duo that is not necessarily a comedic iconic duo, and I don't understand why they keep pairing them up. You know, you look at something like this and it serves as a travelogue, it serves as a time killer, and it has a couple throwaway lines that proves Sandler still has some comedic timing, but I thought that their chemistry here was extremely absent. I mean, it's virtually non-existent, and I thought that the overall pace of this movie was very, very slow for something to have comedic energy, even at a scant 80 minutes long, and this movie's barely 90 minutes long. It still felt labored and really just uninteresting about halfway through. Obviously, I didn't care for this, and just to go to show you here, not to harp on it over and over, but Ticket to Paradise goes to show you what two movie stars with actual chemistry can do in a lighthearted romp, and this movie is just shadow of that movie. It really is. What did you think?
Yeah, put it to shame by bringing up Ticket to Paradise. I mean, I like just go with it. Enjoyed the first murder mystery movie for what it was. You know, I'm not going to say it's a great movie. It was fine. This movie, I think, fails miserably because it expects me to... This is like a third in the series or a fourth in the series. Like, what kind of lore does this movie think it already has to just, like, pop up and be like, hey, we're these people. Remember us? You fucking love us. It's like, no, I don't really remember you that well from the first movie. And they just go with it. Like, they're just like, we're big movie stars. It just feels like you have to like this because you obviously, you know, everyone liked the first one, and here we are and doing this shit. And you're like, yeah, where's the difficulty in this? As you say, like, there's almost no story to this whatsoever.
The beginning of it reminded me a little bit of Ghostbusters 2 in that it starts off very downtrodden. They're coming off a high. Now everything's in shambles, and we meet them, and they're at a low point in their marriage.
What high? They fabricate the high. That high really didn't come from the first movie, right? There's no reason that they would have built up or been where they are now at this movie from the first movie. There really isn't much of a reason for them to have done this. I don't understand. Like, they aren't particularly good at solving crimes.
It's mediocre at best, and it just goes to sit, you know, once again, it's going to now sit on a shelf of titles of mediocre Netflix titles.
So it's made to just, here's something to stream. Let's make it, you know. Well, what do you got for us? Well, we got some names here. We got Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston. Just make something. Doesn't matter.
And beautiful locations, and it kind of keeps up with that trope of Sandler going to another continent and showing the cultures over there. He's done it with Africa, he's done it with the Bahamas, he's done it with, you know, all over the world. This is another exotic location.
I would have preferred to have seen, if you want to use these two actors, that's fine, but I would have preferred not doing a sequel. I think the most important thing Hollywood can do right now, whatever level of Hollywood you're at, stop doing sequels. Stop it. Not everything's a franchise. Just please, for the love of God, stop it.
Yeah, Sandler hasn't done many sequels in his career, and it's odd that he would have chosen to do a sequel to basically a direct-to-DVD movie, which essentially this is back in the day. This is just a really half-assed production all the way around. What this movie could have used to kind of spice it up would have been some lively supporting players. As written, none of these people are interesting. As cast, none of these people are funny. So you really have just the attention on Sandler and Aniston,
maybe
and it's too much for them.
4 moments that I thought were chuckle-worthy.
Like I said, Sandler is still good with a throwaway line. Aniston is still a likable presence, but they have no... It's so manufactured.
Right,
there's nothing winning.
There's no chemistry here. But that again... I think I'm just saying the same thing because it feels like the story is manufactured. Like, there's no reason for them to be where they are now. This feels like a third movie. Like, they're so established in this already. And as you say, this was a kind of an issue with Ghostbusters 2, is that Ghostbusters 2 is really kind of like, have been like Ghostbusters 3, right? Like, there's no, like, what happens in between this time? Why is it so, why am I just thrown back into this and suddenly, like, I'm like supposed to know everything. Like, I've just been in this world for my whole life.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. We're supposed to be intimately familiar with these people from the jump.
This is only the sequel one. So yeah, so now you're done with the world building. I understand the gimmick here. Now get into the meat. Like show me something right from the start. Give me something good. Like, give them another murder mystery immediately. Throw them back into this. Like, force them into it. And then by the end of this movie, boom, they're in it. Like, and now they're ready. Now you can go into the third movie where they're downtrodden because they've been doing this for so long, right? It feels like they skipped the movie.
If this was to be made by, let's say, David Spade or Schneider or one of the lesser of the trope, even Kevin James, I don't think I would be holding it against it as much. But when I see Sandler on there, and I remember the heights of the great Sandler comedies of the summers of past, and then you get something like this, it's just such a fucking letdown because even Hubie Halloween I thought was more amusing than this, because at least that was an oddball character, whereas this is just your standard, let's just schlub through a movie and the audience will take it because it's what we're giving them.
Yeah, I mean, the IMDb rating on this right now is 5.7, and I'm blown away that Netflix will spend this amount of money. Netflix is going to wind up going bankrupt here at some point.
What's the budget on
this, do you know? And they are, tens of millions of dollars, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're going to wind up with a slate of fucking shit that's unsellable. Who's going to want these movies that they have? Like, they have a couple of really, really excellent stuff, and then they have a slew of complete crap.
Out of all the movies that they've ever released on there, there's one that I would buy on DVD, Blu-ray, and that's Spencer. Yep, Spencer Confidential. Yep.
I mean, I agree with you. That's where I'm at too. And there's a couple movies that are okay, like they're interesting or whatever that they made them, but for the most part, these are just I don't want to revisit any of this Netflix slate. None of it.
I've rewatched The Irishman, but once again, that's another one.
I didn't like that one, but that's a personal preference for me because I'll say that a lot of people liked it, but that movie's too long. I don't think that has the staying power of a lot of past Scorsese films.
It's not this. It doesn't have the same energy as a lot of past Scorsese films either. So it's an older man's work, but at least it has some rewatchability to me, at least. Okay, let's move on and talk about another film that is on the streamers now. That's M3GAN with a 3, M3GAN.
M3GAN?
The surprise hit of last fall that is now on Peacock streaming. I'm just catching up with this. And I gotta say, I was
sequels and spin-offs, maybe like a show and stuff with this.
I was pleasantly surprised by this one. I was not expecting much, and I'll tell you what, you know what it shames is that 2019 version of Child's Play that they came out with that I saw in theaters a couple years back. That piece of shit was so unimaginative that I thought from the jump on this, okay, they're doing something a little different here. Now, I think
they're doing the same thing, but all right.
I liked the tone of this movie. I liked the playfulness of this movie, and I liked that this wasn't a straight up horror film. This is more like The Good Son with Macaulay Culkin in a lot of ways. And really, what she's doing is she's a protector. She's not necessarily this malevolent force. She's almost like a Terminator, where she's protecting this child from these things, because there's not a whole lot of violence in this film. It's on the back half. I'll say that. This is a slow burn for me as well. Did you feel like this movie took a while to get going? But I'll tell you what,
it's not a long movie either, so that's
not a long movie. But I was fairly blown away at the level of care that was given to the story when I thought this was going to be a throwaway exploitation picture, a la the last Child's Play reboot they did. So I was impressed on what I got from what I was going in saying. I know that's not much, but I did like that the aunt character was not particularly likable, that she wasn't this perfect mother who was thrown into the situation, and I thought that it was credible how things were going. And honestly, this kind of AI shit freaks me out anyway, so I thought this was right at home for me. And setting it now as opposed to when Chucky came out in the 80s, it was funny and kind of iconic in that, like, we're so far off from that, whereas this could be next week. It reminded me of the doll from The Sixth Day. Do you remember
it has to be. They can't do, I mean, it has to be uncanny valley stuff here to be scary, right? It can't be perfect.
And it is. It really
is
uncanny.
If it was perfect, it's not that scary. And they've done perfect before. They've done perfect automatons who've turned bad or done whatever and stuff before, and it's not as freaky.
No, even Ex Machina, was not as eerie as some of this is. I mean, that was a totally different, more intellectual film. But I even felt like some of the vibes of that were in here.
They did undress her though to make her more, like the body. Like they made it so that she looked more robotic, as that movie went on. So she got more freakier, but it wasn't in the face.
What did you think about M3GAN? Are you a fan of this? Would you recommend it? I do recommend
it. Yeah, I didn't like it. I think that while I also don't like it, is imperfect. I think that the Child's Play remake is a little more interesting than this.
Wow, really?
This is, it had some moments with the Chucky and with the kids and stuff that I thought was more interesting than this. This just wasn't that interesting. This played out exactly how I thought. And not only that, I got some real issues with this. Like, who makes something like this and then goes, this is a toy? You don't immediately call up the Pentagon? You just made a super soldier. The Pentagon doesn't immediately see this and go, no, you're not selling that. We're taking it. I don't, just no. I can't get past that.
I will agree with you on this. There is a logical loophole
Makes no
here
sense.
in that if this is the end-all be-all toys, why would you ever need to buy a new version of
How
this
can
or
this
another
be a
toy?
You
Okay.
understand what Tesla's working on a robot right now to work to build things. This is it. They built this thing would be worth so much fucking money in any other aspect of other than a toy. It makes no fucking sense at all. At least the Chucky thing was a fucking Chucky thing. Like, it looked like it was fucking incapable in some degree of doing fucking much of anything. And I'll admit that even that, you're pushing it on this type of stuff doesn't make a lot of sense. At the same time, do I really want another fucking rogue AI military fucking robot movie? Probably not. But I do wish that they had done something to address that, at least, I agree with you at some point. I like your analogy of the Terminator stuff. That actually puts us in a better light than when I had seen it. But overall, I just feel like this is not that interesting. There are more interesting older movies with killer dolls or even robotic killer things than this.
Well, I will say this for the original Child's Play, the 1988 version, is that what that movie had going for it that kind of gave it that horror edge was that it was the soul of a serial killer transplanted into the doll. It wasn't this artificial intelligence. So that's
not what the first one. That's what the first one lacked. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Yes.
Yeah, the original one. That made a lot of sense to me.
Yes, of course, right, and it's completely far-fetched. That actually makes no sense. That makes less sense than M3GAN or than the remake. But it works better, right? Like, it's more logical that that's the case, because, like I say here, business, this would just never be in a business. It makes no sense.
Did you feel that there were scenes in here that did play effectively? Because this wasn't necessarily played for laughs all the way through, like I thought it was going to be.
The other Child's Play one I thought had a little more interesting things, but I would put this on the same level as that. It's not overall. I don't think it's all that interesting.
Like I said, I thought this was written a little bit more intelligently than I was expecting, and it's made fairly well. But this was a little bit more than I was expecting, so I do give it a slight recommendation. But I do concede your point into saying that this is the most advanced robotics known to man, and that this should be time traveling and saving mankind and not playing in a little girl's dressing room.
I mean, I don't know. That's just how I feel, and it's not. There have been like Deadly Friend, right? There's lots of old movies with robotics things that I guess really you could say had the same issues with, but it feels, I don't know, it felt different back then. If everything's going to be so slick and so on it today, then when I watch a movie from today like this that passes up that kind of obvious stuff, it rubs me completely the wrong way, or at least doesn't even address it, right? Makes no sense.
Made a lot of money, though. I'm surprised that this hit as well as it did, so that's why I was curious to see why this was a sensation.
PG-13, I think it's an easy watch, or an easy sell, I should say. At least the trailer is pretty decent. Let's be honest about that.
And it became viral with the TikTok stuff and the doll dancing and singing. This movie has an odd musical element, too. I wanted to bring that up. I don't understand why it's thought for a couple musical interludes. That was very out of left field. Fucking Taylor Swift.
I think it adds to the creepiness to some degree. Because,
it did, yeah.
When she kills the guy, when she's dancing down the hallway and then she grabs the blade, the paper cutter blade, you're like, oh, shit,
Yeah, that was one of the best scenes in the movie.
So to some degree, and she was dancing around like TikTok, like stuff in that scene. So yeah, it just kind of adds to that. Like, it's a little creepy. It's a little of the, she's doing something opposite of what you would normally think would be cute, as like a cute kid. That's what you were saying with Macaulay Culkin stuff.
Yeah, it had a good son vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, she's evil.
There's a shot where she's in the woods and they have the fog behind her and it's a low angle shot. I thought, this reminds me exactly of The Good Son. There's a shot almost identical to that.
And then make her run like an animal.
All right, let's move on and talk about The Whale. This was Brendan Fraser's film for his Best Actor Oscar win. Not even a nomination and win.
Yeah, well, both, yeah.
You raved about this. Go ahead and give your capsule review here.
Look, I just love this movie. I think that when Darren Aronofsky makes something good, I think he does a really good job of it. And there's a couple movies that I really love of his, and I think that when he makes something bad, he makes something really bad. And there's a lot of movies that I fucking hate his. And this is a fantastic movie. I think when I watch this movie, there's so much going on. There's so much to think about. Just of human nature and humanity. Everything that everyone says, about that. Everywhere, everything, all at once.
Yes.
About the nihilism and about the, oh God, what's the opposite? What are the other people?
Existentialism.
Existentialists. Thank you. Everything that they say about that movie, which I think is fucking nonsense for that movie. Like, that's all surface level bullshit is super deep in this movie. Like constantly throughout everything, every interaction, every character, there's so many themes. Like thematically, this is just an insane movie. So for someone like me who loves to just fucking read into everything, and there's lots to read in here, I think this is a great movie. This is also a movie that I've heard so many people talk about, like, I'm not going to watch this movie. I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be sad. This is not a sad movie. This is an existential movie. It's a good movie. You're going to feel good by the end of it. At least I did anyways. It's hopeful. It's everything that movies nowadays, when they make movies, they're not hopeful. There's nothing but hope in this movie for all the characters and everything that happens. So, yeah, I think it's a great movie. I think it was the best movie of last year. Definitely the best movie I saw.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. If this isn't the best picture of the year, it definitely is in the top 5, if not the top 3 for me. I was the same way. I didn't really want to watch this movie. I like Brendan Fraser. I didn't want to see him suffering. He has sad eyes anyways. But my God, this is a revelation. This movie is not only his finest work he's ever done, but it stayed with me. I mean, I still think about the character in the movie, and no pun intended, but this movie has no fat on it. This is a lean script. Every line, every interaction, every scene counts. How good's the production value, too? How good is the cinematography, the staging, the blocking, I'm saying. The props that are used?
That fucking apartment is lived in. Like, that's a real apartment. I don't even give a fuck. Like, that has to be real.
The couch, like, when he's trying to get off the couch, you feel the weight of that.
The texture of everything in that fucking apartment.
The handle in the shower to keep him upright in case he falls.
And even of his bedroom that he doesn't use, when he opens that door and you look in there, and everything, it's totally different inside that room. Like, everything's pristine and it's all beautiful. It's completely different than the rest of the apartment.
You know what else this movie has? Is a really interesting, tragic love story. And he's a gay man. And the story is about a gay man. And there's religious overtones too. And that's not promoted at all. It's not worn on its sleeve that it's a woke movie.
It's just humanity.
It's a part of his character.
Well, it's not woke.
I don't want to get too far into it because there are revelations in it, but it's part of a character.
Yeah, you don't want to ruin it.
It makes him human. He has flaws, but they're not manufactured Hollywood flaws.
But all the characters have flaws.
Absolutely.
Some of their flaws are he's a fat guy. But why is he fat? Because he hates himself, but he wants people to hate him. But why does he want people to hate him? Because he's fucking ugly and fat.
Did you pick up on... What happened to his lover? Did his lover have an eating disorder, or did he have AIDS or cancer before what had happened to him? The caregiver said something about he wouldn't eat for weeks.
So he had a mental breakdown. Yeah.
Is that why he went the opposite way? Because he ate himself because the other man wasn't? You know what I mean? It was almost the antithesis of what his lover had done.
Possibly. That's fucking fantastic. I didn't even pick up on that, but that's fucking actually really good.
Because he kept saying, I wasn't always like this. I wasn't always like this. And she sees the picture of him and his lover at one point, and they're much different.
Even the sister, when she deals with him, when she says, like, I tried to tell, I mean, she just feeds this fucking guy the whole time. But a lot of that, I think, has to do with, they want to be loved, right? And so he too, as well, for his boyfriend, like, wouldn't tell him. They were all enablers, right? Because that's how they felt like they would be wanted, right? And so he let his boyfriend die, in a sense, because he couldn't help him, but he wanted to be with him, so he enabled him because he wanted to be wanted and loved. And that's in the movie throughout. All the characters are like that. Actually, they all have this facade that they put up. This face, which I've read some reviews. If you read some of the reviews on this movie, there's some really dumb fucking people out there who just don't understand. Like, oh my God! Like, I've read some stuff where it's just like, oh, everyone's so one dimensional on this, and they're all fake, and they say this and that. It's like, no, that's part of the character. That's the defense mechanism. You didn't dig any deeper. You didn't pay attention to the breakthroughs that the characters had, and to how it tore down those walls that they were putting up.
Do you know what I like about this too?
Fucking point.
This is not a soft edge film. This is when he
This goes
finally
balls
turns
deep.
on that camera and his class can see him, it's not like it would be in the movies 20 years ago where everyone's nice to him.
Oh, it's
They're
horrible.
smirking. They're talking to each other. They're texting
Some
each
of
other.
them are, yeah.
They're in disgust, some of them. But the whole
that's not
point is
even-
he's bearing himself to them at that moment. You know what I mean?
But nobody cares. What's the ultimate meaning of that? He throws the computer and breaks out of that, and it has no fucking real actual value even to him at that point. That's so fucking real. Like if you were to do that in real life and to bury yourself and as you explained it, it's like it should be like miraculous, right? If it was like a Hollywood movie. And as you say, like it's not. Like everyone's snickering and talking about it, and some people aren't. Some people relate or are like wow or whatever.
But they don't give him a standing ovation like they would have in the 90s.
No,
You know what I mean?
and
Like
it
a slow
ultimately
clap
doesn't
type
fucking
scene.
matter either. Like when it doesn't really matter like what happens, which is not something you find in a movie. Like that would be some sort of like triumphant like part of the film, and it's not.
I want to talk briefly here with you about the lady who plays the nurse. And I don't want to talk too much about her character because there are some secrets that are divulged, and I think it's beautifully handled.
Hong
She gives
Chow, I
the
think is her name.
best
Hong Chow.
supporting performance of the year. She gives
yes.
the best. She
Thank
was
you.
nominated. She should have won. She's
Thank
just
you.
as strong as him.
It can't
It's
just
a
be me,
two-hander.
right?
No, it's a two-hander
I actually
in this
really
situation.
liked all of the. I think every actor in this really gave it their all and was really fantastic.
But she stood out to me
and you're
outside
right.
of him
She was really
because
good.
she
Yeah.
has the emotional anger that he won't allow himself to have a lot of the time. She is the one that is mad. I mean, when she has to save him from choking, that's like an action scene to me. I mean, that came out of nowhere. The whole thing blew me away. I was not willing to watch this. I did not want to watch this. It's a one-act fucking
when she
movie.
lays her head on his fat fucking arm.
Yeah.
And there's that moment, and you're like, oh my God. And he's so nasty anyway. It's like, how the fuck? It's like, oh my God. Well, why would you want to be
Anywhere
near him?
near
Whatever.
him.
But she just wants to. And you learn why later on because there's a closeness because of her brother was her boyfriend and all that. So there's that closeness that she wants to keep with her brother through him. And there's still a need for want from her. But then just that moment that they play off each other so well where he's like, please, like fucking enable me. Give me my fucking fried chicken, bitch. You know, like I need my food. And she's like, oh, no. She's like, oh, fine, you know, and does it. Like even those moments are just like, oh my God.
There's
yes.
in the very beginning, the movie starts and he's basically masturbating, and there's a sequence there where you're like, oh my God, he looks like Fat Bastard from Austin Powers. Is this going to be hard to get into? But the second that Frasier starts talking, his eyes are so expressive in this movie. He seems
his voice,
trapped in this.
Everything.
He's so gentle and yet knows exactly what he wants out of this last week that he has. And the movie, not to give away, I don't want to spoil the ending, but the last shot, it is handled so beautifully how this is done that when the credit came up, I was I don't want to say my jaw was open because that's a cliche, but I was in kind of a quiet disbelief. And I watched the credits for a while.
My eyes were watering. Let's
just
put it that way. And I didn't cry during this movie, and I rarely do I even tear up and stuff. But yeah, at the end of this movie, I was like, wow.
I immediately wanted to rewatch it, not right away, but I wanted the need to revisit
this conversation is
it.
making me want to watch it. Right now,
no, I know
there's so much in this movie. It's unbelievable for just how everything plays out. Yeah, really, truly incredible, and it makes me kind of sad that I didn't get to see this play because this would have been, I feel like, a really great play.
The stage play you're talking about, it's based on. Yes. Yeah. And I did some research about the author that wrote this and wrote the play, and apparently he was an English professor. He was prone to binge eating and kind of wrote this from a place of knowledge. So maybe that's why there's so much truth in it. And once again, it's an extremely literate screenplay. There are a lot of literature references in here. So there are even, I feel like, like you were saying, there's treasures hidden in this movie still for me to find. And I think I'm going to keep revisiting it every couple years or every year or so and see what else I can dig out of this. Because these are the kind of movies that I treasure.
I told you there's a you didn't believe me that there is a good Aronofsky fucking movie.
It's hard to believe. I find his work very off-putting. I have to be honest with you.
I agree with you too. There's only a couple movies that I really think are all that interesting of his, but this movie is just mind-blowing in a way that you would never expect, like a movie like The Whale, for this content to be rewatchable, right?
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be this. I didn't think it was going to be this material, and I didn't think it was going to be handled this way. I thought this was going to be a pity party type situation for this obese man, and honestly, I didn't want to watch it.
Kind of is, but it's not. It's really, you feel really good. Like after this, and this is not. I should stress, it's not a happy movie, but it's a hopeful movie, and you feel really good at the end of this movie.
Happy?
I mean, I did anyways. I felt everything. Yeah, you feel like it's very existential. The nihilism definitely gets wiped away by the end of this movie.
Yeah, I agree with the last shot, especially, and when
Yes.
he looks up and the whole thing. Like I loved how that was handled in the energy
Great
of
setups
that
and payoffs
sequences,
with all that stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
when the pizza boy, all that stuff. I loved that interaction when he finally saw him. I mean, there's just little moments in this, and there's also moments that I thought initially like that doesn't add up, and then as I played them out in my head, the daughter's treatment of the boy and things like that.
It does, because it's not real. Yeah. So a lot of the characters act like I say, they have this defense mechanism. They say these things, they do these things, but that's not necessarily who they are. That's what they want you to think of them.
Oh, this movie's full of subtext.
And all the characters do that. Yes, all the characters do that. So this is a movie that you have to read into. Like, you're forced to. I don't even know how you would watch it and not. Like I said, I've read the reviews where people clearly didn't fucking pay attention. It's like, oh, like you didn't fucking get it at all,
or you didn't want to do the work. And I understand a lot of people don't want. You just want to put something on like murder mystery and let it play in front of you. But if you feel like watching something that is going to be worth your time, it's not. I think it's like an hour and 40 minutes long. It's not 2.5 hours. And
it's 2 hours.
Is it 2 hours? Okay, well, it flew by to me.
Yeah,
to
just
be honest.
I mean, with the probably 10 minutes of credits, so an hour 50, maybe an hour. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe I don't know how long credits are. It's like a 2-hour movie.
Flew by, and well-deserved
like you
Oscar
say, there's
for
no
Fraser.
fat on it.
No,
there really is no fat on this movie. It keeps moving and moving. Every single piece of it is interesting, even if the guy's dropping a key and can't fucking pick it up because he's so fat. It's fucking shot and filmed interestingly. Like you're never bored in this movie.
The key thing,
and you should be.
That sequence, talk about shot and filmed suspensefully. That is the rope being pulled and pulled and pulled before it snaps and back. When he couldn't get that, I mean, my claustrophobia was up through the roof watching this movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they shot that hallway pretty well too.
They shot it in 4:3 standard.
The chair, and he's got to try to go through. Let's talk about.
They don't shoot the film in widescreen to give it more of a claustrophobic feeling.
A couple movies shot in 4:3, and I fucking love this. I would, if I ever made a movie and would come up with some way that would be work in 4:3, I would shoot it in that. This is a beautiful framing, especially for this movie. It's, as you say, it's claustrophobic, but it's not only is it claustrophobic, but it's intimate. Mm-hmm. It's just straight up intimate.
Yeah, I thought as beautiful artistic choice by the director to shoot this with the sides cropped off, and you feel as boxed in as he does and as confined in this space as he does. And I just thought, like, this is a beautiful visual way to kind of tell you in a lot of ways what he's feeling. And it works because you see the ceilings in the bathrooms, and I don't know, the whole thing. The hallway looks longer to me. It just looks like it's more laborious to get down things, and just, I don't know. I really, really enjoyed this movie. Definitely one of the best pictures of the year. I can't believe this wasn't nominated for Best Picture. I really take issue with that.
Yeah, that's insane, I think. I think it's insane that everyone bought into the Everything Everywhere All at Once and no one bought into The Whale, it feels like. That's just, to me, is like... And I've heard so many people say, the only reason I like The Whale is for Brendan Fraser. And it's like, what? Are we watching the same movies here?
Yeah,
am I missing? Is there a different cut of Everything Everywhere All at Once that I didn't see? Because that movie is pretentious as fuck.
And I would have thought the Aronofsky film, The Whale, would have been the pretentious one.
Yeah, because they have been in the past.
Yeah, they really have. Okay, let's move on and talk about Clerks III, the final installment in Kevin Smith's long-running Clerks franchise. I guess it's a franchise. Started back in 1994 with his inaugural film under Miramax and is now concluding with this in 2022. I caught up with this recently. You had seen it before me. Let me get your capsule review before I jump in, because I know you're a bigger Smith fan, or you have been historically more forgiving to his films than I have been. So I'm curious what you think before I jump in.
Well, I'll preface this by saying Clerks and Clerks 2, I consider one movie. I watched them all at once. I don't watch one or the other. I watch both because they're fucking fantastic, and they are definitely in my top 10 movies of all time. Clerks 3 is fucking horrible. I hate this movie. It's not a bad movie on its own, but it's a bad Clerks movie. Number one, because it's an ending. This was not the movie I was promised, before the heart attack, of course. Now I get this Kevin Smith after the heart attack. And I don't like Kevin Smith after the heart attack. I remember a time when Kevin Smith would talk about Hollywood, right? And he made those documentaries, not documentaries, they were like stand-up.
Yeah,
right. And the first one, An Evening With, you're right, exactly. And the first one, he talked about Michael Moore.
Right.
And how Canadian Bacon failed, but Michael Moore found his audience when he started making documentaries, and he found like those groupies, basically. Like he found like his place. And that's where I think Kevin Smith wound up. Because he's making these movies now just to four-wall them, to tour them around fucking town and play them to people who will just lick his nuts, for whatever, because he's fucking Kevin Smith. And I don't like this kind of fandom. I've never been a fan of this for the Star Wars stuff. I've been a fan of it for the Star Trek stuff. Like, if something's shit, it's shit. Okay, I don't care if it's part of, like, you don't need to be a part of something that bad that you just love everything of it. But that's who Kevin Smith plays to now. He does whatever he does. He does terrible shit, really, to be honest with you. I haven't seen good Kevin Smith since fucking Zack and Miri. It's been over 10 years. So this movie was a huge letdown for me. Really, I just can't believe that they ended it. Like, I was sold as Clerks as every decade Kevin Smith would get to put in his say of like how things are going for him, and we get to revisit these characters. And when he was first talking about Clerks 3, about the unproduced one, I'm guessing, the script that apparently Jeff Anderson didn't want to make, and I really only think Jeff Anderson wanted to make this one because it was going to be the last one. Jeff Anderson's character Randall there was going to get a fucking girlfriend, which makes a lot of sense.
That time,
because again, Clerks is all about hope, right? It's all about, hey, we're not fucking doing so well, but in the future we're going to be doing well. And Clerks 3 is all about, it's over.
And it never happened. On top of it,
I don't even get it. Well, first of all, the first act of this movie is all Kevin Smith's fucking heart attack, and I don't care about it. Stop talking about it. I'm serious. I don't give a shit that you're a vegetarian. I don't care that you've now stopped smoking pot. Or I don't care that you were a pothead before. I don't care about any of this shit. I don't care about it. I wish he would stop. I don't know who he is anymore. He's fucking nuts. But I don't care about the heart. I don't care about the doctor that was so amazing. All the doctors are amazing. You go to the hospital, they fucking help you. Of course they're amazing. I don't care about it. You don't need to put it in a fucking movie and make that a big part of the fucking movie. It's uninteresting. Honestly, it's not just a part of Clerks. It's just not Clerks. This movie is not Clerks. I don't know how else to put it other than that. And he did this better with Zack and Miri. It felt way more meaningful in Zack and Miri. And this movie, when they make the movie in this, just feels like, whatever. Kind of shooting something. I don't really fucking, it's supposed to be Clerks, but I don't even fucking really feel it.
I like what you said about...
Maybe you have a different thing of this, but I don't know. I hated this.
I did like your idea that they should drop in here every decade or so, and he could use it as his 7-Up series, in a sense, where every couple of years, I could see him do that. I was going to fucking say that, because I had thought of that, too. Like, that would be... Thank you for the 7-Up fucking reference, too, because that was literally in my brain when I was thinking about that type of... We're talking about Michael Apted 7-Up series, the documentary series.
And there's, 14
and it goes every 21, 28, and goes so on and so forth.
I think it's up to 49. I think it's up to 49 now.
Yeah, because Apted died. Yeah, I think you're at 49.
Yeah, something crazy like that. But again, I guess, what was that Boyhood movie thing or something? Was that Ethan Hawke thing where they did?
Yeah, that was 7 years. I think they filmed it, or 10 years they filmed it. Boyhood. Was
that like that?
Yeah, because that was actually filmed over time.
So something interesting like that, where you could see like the evolution of Kevin Smith doing things. And this was, this was all fat Kevin Smith. This is all real Kevin Smith. I don't know that if Kevin Smith died and they replaced him with the fucking AI or something. I don't know what happened post heart attack or whatever, but it's just, he was already separating from his original self before with a couple of movies that weren't that great and weren't even that very Kevin Smith. They still had his style to them. Now he's just putting out shit. That last Jay and Silent Bob movie was complete shit. And I feel like Clerks 3 is a lot of the member berries. Like, remember this? Remember Clerks? Don't you like Clerks? I'm Kevin Smith. Here's Jason Mewes, It's like, yeah, I remember, but
well, I didn't care. I mean, I liked it a little bit more than you, I guess, than that. But then again, let me preface that by saying I have never seen Clerks 2. So I honestly, I can't believe I have never seen Clerks 2. But
fuck you. Do yourself a goddamn favor and watch Clerks 2. It is fucking fantastic. It is hilarious.
Absolutely,
it puts Clerks 3 to shame. Actually, puts Clerks, the first one, to shame too. It is fucking great.
Well, the first Clerks is one of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, that was such a big movie rental for us.
Clerks 3, what line of dialogue do you repeat from this?
Nothing. But you know what I did
Clerks
about
was amazing.
This movie, though? I just liked seeing these guys again. That's what I really liked, and I liked being back in their world. But you know what I didn't like is that they got
you would never see them again.
They got first of all, it's set up so after that first act when the nurse says something to the other guy about your diet. If you don't watch this, you're going to end up like this, and the next thing you know, you just see this coming. And then I thought, no, they're not going to do that. And sure as shit, I mean, talk about a kid killing his. They
already had the Rosario Dawson character killed, who I can only imagine died from doing ass to mouth. Which is that's Clerks 2. You should see Clerks 2.
I know, I have seen that clip. I've seen that but over the years. But at the same time,
there's no ass to mouth moment in this fucking movie, by the way. Like, there's none of that shit. Like, this is not a fucking. I don't think this is very funny.
Well, not only is it not funny, the actors are not strong enough to be asked to do what they're asked to do here, including that graveyard scene at where he's forced to go to Rosario Dawson's grave and have this mea culpa of just. He could not get that scene going.
Look, I like these guys. I like Brian Holland. I like Jeff Anderson. I like them a lot, especially in these roles. They're not good actors. I mean, you're right. They're not. Well, they're not strong actors.
Fine,
we'll just say that.
But don't make them do
especially
that scene.
Especially Brian Holland. I know. I agree with you. I'm saying the same thing. Yeah. I mean, but I still liked him in the role. Like, I would have enjoyed it if this was more of a continuation of what Clerks was, which was a hopeful future. We're fuck ups, but yeah. Like, we'll get this eventually. Like, we're still working on ourselves. We'll get this eventually.
Well,
instead of like, we're fuck ups, but I've lost my entire fucking life. Like, my girlfriend's fucking dead. My friend is like had a heart attack and is now like doing whatever. Like, he wants to shoot a fucking movie. I'm gonna support him, but then in the end, I'm just gonna fucking die and like leave him and go fucking off with my girlfriend. It's like, what is this?
The movie,
it's a weird fucking movie.
You said it's got her case of the remembers back to the other Clerks, but honestly, it's got a case of the remembers back to Zach and Miri, which covered this ground.
Yeah, it has member berries for a View Askewniverse.
That's Zach and Miri covered this ground way more effectively 15 years ago with the auditioning and like the let's make a movie together spirit and all that.
Yeah, that movie's great as far as like
particularly compared to this
looking into like making a movie. Oh yeah, it's funny. It's thoughtful. It's I don't want to say this movie's not emotional because this movie is emotional. I suppose it is thoughtful, but it's just not. It's not Clerks. It's just not.
It's a disappointment, but I will say for me, it was a step up over Jay and Silent Bob reboot that came out a few years back, which was about as audience pandering as it comes and was basically hard to watch. It was hard to get through for me, whereas this wasn't hard to get through. I just was watching it stupefied that they're not really going to kill off these characters, are they? And sure as shit, they fucking for some reason felt like he needed to destroy all the toys in his room. That's what like a kid playing in a sandbox saying, I can do what I want. It's my sandbox. You're like, well, I guess you can, but we're here along for the ride. And I've invested now a couple decades into his work. And for me, the last time Kevin Smith made a really entertaining movie was Cop Out, a movie that he blatantly hates. So I don't know really what to do. I've always liked the guy to an extent. I think as a human being, I like the guy, but then again, I hear some of the shit he says.
I think he's fake. I think he's a fake person, really, at this point.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his artistic statement is.
We went through the He-Man stuff. Look at the movies he's made just based off his podcast stuff. And look at his podcast. I mean, talk about a guy who, as I say, like talk down almost about the Michael Moore stuff. Like how that dude couldn't make a fucking movie to save his life that anyone liked. And so found like
a niche,
a close following, of like people who would just worship him and shit. How is that different than what Kevin Smith? Kevin Smith took the long road to that. Who basically, Zach and Miri basically ruined him because it didn't do Judd Apatow fucking numbers. And so he decided, well, I'll just do whatever I want, you know?
Well, and some of those experiments were clever. Red State was okay. Tusk was okay in terms of like off.
Look, they're all written well, but they aren't very good movies.
I will say that this is at least more watchable than something like Yoga Hosers, which was the bottom of the barrel for me. Let's move on and talk about some trailers. We got 3 trailers we want to talk about tonight. And the first I want to start off with is About My Father, the Sebastian Maniscalco comedy co-starring Robert De Niro that's going to be released on Memorial Day weekend. Interestingly enough, they're going to release it.
Are you a fan?
I'm a huge fan of Maniscalco. But
yeah, me too. I like him as a character.
I like him as a character. I like him as a comedian. They're releasing this opposite of Burt Kreischer's The Machine movie, which is kind of interesting. Those are both going to come out on the same weekends, which I think might cannibalize each other a little bit in terms of grossings.
Yeah, it'd be pretty bad, actually.
I think that they should
That's not great.
separate those a little bit. But this trailer is interesting to me for a couple of reasons. One is he's playing himself quite literally. I mean, his name's Maniscalco in this.
Sure.
De Niro's playing his father, who's a big part of his bit. We've seen a lot of comedians play themselves in movies recently. Joe Coy did it to not very good effect in Easter Sunday.
It happens a lot for comedians, yeah.
This trailer, while not a great trailer, looks endearing to me. I want to see this movie for some reason. I don't know if it's the chemistry between the two, or there's nothing really funny about this trailer, but this looks like the kind of comedy I used to watch, and so I kind of want to see it. I'm sure it's going to be terrible or unforgettable, but I want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I watched this on streaming. I think this looks pretty basic. This is like a almost like a Fockers movie.
Everybody Loves Raymond
Meet the
type
Parents.
thing, right? Almost.
Everybody Love Raymond. Yeah, it doesn't look wildly original on any level whatsoever. It doesn't look very, very funny either because of that. The jokes are very I've seen this a million times, which is unfortunate. I think that happens with comedians in these comedies sometimes. It's really unfortunate that they wind up just making a movie that's like just generic.
Like a homogenized version of their stand-up.
Yeah, and we've seen things like, I want to say, parental guidance,
Yeah.
there was a slew of these. Well, there was one that came out around parental guidance as well with Seth Rogen and
The Guilt Trip.
Thank you, Guilt Trip. Yeah.
Yep.
And so there's a bunch of these, and like I said, Robert De Niro obviously brings back the Meet the Fockers vibes, or Meet the Parents,
Big time.
or Meet the Fockers. I guess that was one too. So yeah, it just seems like this is a movie that I've just seen before, and that's unfortunate for a comedian to do that. Like, you don't want. Like, I think The Machine's gonna fucking crush this.
I think so,
because
too.
The Machine looks new.
It's like a movie.
And well, as new as it is, yeah, it looks like a movie. I mean, I think it has. I think they chose the wrong way to tell that story, but that's fine. That's what they chose. But it is at least is a story that is unique, right, to some degree.
Yeah, this looks very cut and dry and like everything you else see. But I do like the performers. I do wonder, though, why De Niro constantly gets cast in comedies. When did he ever have a comedic pedigree?
He's not particularly funny.
He's never been funny. Not once.
He plays a very straight. He always plays a straight character in all of them.
Yeah, and he's not funny, though.
Which I don't know if that's telling or not. I like him in the Meet the Parents movie. In that trilogy, I think he works in those. But again, he's playing a CIA agent. He's playing a straight character. It relies more on the writing than at that point. And the writing for this movie is not here. I don't see it. I think Sebastian Maniscalco. What is his name? Maniscalco. Is a super likable guy, and even when you watch this trailer, he's like very likable.
Yeah, that comes off the screen immediately. You know what I think he would be good?
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be his first foray into films, and hopefully they'll give him a couple shots. He had a small bit part in The Irishman. But do you know what I think he would be really good as? And I know it's probably in the wrong decade for this type of movie, but as a fucking comedic sidekick in a cop action film. Like the second guy, not the guy, but he's like the partner, who's cracking wise.
I'll throw this out there. Chips 2.
Okay.
And he's the third CHP guy.
Okay, I'll take that.
Would that not work, actually?
I'll take that. I was thinking more of like
I think that would fucking work.
I was thinking more of like a Joe Pesci and Lethal Weapon type character. You know what I mean? Kind of the skittish
That's fine
type
too,
of,
but I'm just saying, I think if you were to put something together right now, I think that would work.
I think About My Father has more potential at the box office than Chips 2, but yes, I think that you might be right on that.
That's terrible. Don't say that. I love Chips.
So do I. I think Chips is underrated.
Not the show, the movie.
The movie's underrated. It really is.
It's the best Dax Shepard directed film ever. I'll tell you that much.
It's the best thing he's ever been in, including his own podcast.
That's for sure, too. Yeah, he did a great job on that. I'm surprised. I feel really bad that movie did so poorly and people don't like it because I love it.
All right, let's talk about Nicolas Cage's new film, Renfield. This is a Universal release where he plays Dracula, and Nicholas Hoult plays his underling, and it's in modern times now, and the guy wants to...
There are Aquafina's in it.
I just
Your favorite.
don't care for that actress, and she's not too much in the trailer, but I did see that she was in there. But I do
She's
like
in the trailer a lot.
I like this trailer. I think this is actually a pretty entertaining little trailer, and I got high hopes for this movie.
I don't have high hopes for it, but I do think the trailer looks pretty good, and it's interesting. I feel, again, this feels like an emulation, again, of like past movies that have been like this, and really Simon Pegg kind of, I feel like, set the mold for these. And we got some pretty good ones throughout the time of the past couple of decades, but this feels like it's trying to be that, at this point. Like, I don't know, all these movies feel like they're trying to be something rather than just be what they are. They're trying to be like, they're trying to fill a niche. They're trying to find an audience. They're trying to be something. And this movie feels like that. Although it's got fucking Nicolas Cage going apeshit. So
I love it.
You can't fucking hate that. So it's got a lot going for it, but I do feel like it's going to be over the top. It's going to try to push some emotional stuff. It's trying to be a little weird and off kilter, even though it's not, because it's emulating stuff that was before, but now we've had plenty of movies that do this. It's no longer weird.
The release date's a little odd to me. This should have been released closer to Halloween to pick up.
Probably not that great of a movie, man. I'm just telling you right now. We have something new that was created, and now at this point we have Hollywood knowing, well, this is now a genre. Write something just like this, and then they create something like that. They do this all the time with everything, and by the time you get to something like this, it's just worn out. It's just not very good anymore. There's no spirit in it,
Well, I think if anything, Cage is going to liven up the proceedings, because even in the trailer here,
yes, that's worth it alone.
He looks like he's killing it. In that,
he's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I
he's loving it being just. He's like,
yeah, he's going full bore here.
So yeah,
and anytime
that alone would be worth it.
Fucking A. Anytime he goes full Cage, I want to see it. Always, I want to be there. So yeah, this one is. I got this one on my calendar.
I'll agree with you on that one.
All right, the last one we're going to talk about on tonight's show is Asteroid City. This is the latest from Wes Anderson. Looks like it continues his very esoteric tastes. This is not my cup of tea.
Terrible? Yes, thank you.
Wes Anderson and his ironic, detached.
It's Wes Anderson aping Wes Anderson. Again, this feels. Why do these trailers tonight? And maybe I'm wrong, but these trailers feel like they're fake trailers for fake movies.
Yeah, they would all show up in Tropic Thunder. Yeah.
Don't they? Yes, they all do. Like, this feels like, this is so Wes Anderson. This feels like every single other Wes Anderson movie. Like, Wes Anderson can only make Wes Anderson movies at this point, and they all feel the same. And this looks like absolutely nothing. It's very pretentious. All the actors are like, ooh, I get to be in the Wes Anderson movie. It feels like that. It just feels like, what's the fucking story?
Wait,
there is no story in this trailer.
Didn't it seem to you that Tom Hanks is only in this because Bill Murray is now canceled and he couldn't be in it? I mean, I thought, like, wow, why is Tom Hanks in this? That's a Bill Murray role right there. And then that detached, ironic speech tone. There's one joke at the end where Jason Schwartz's character says...
everyone does it. Everyone acts the same.
Everyone's in the same mode of energy. It's not clever anymore. This wasn't clever after Rushmore.
I know.
So I don't understand how he's gotten away with making the same fucking movie
Some of
for
his
25
stuff has
years.
been interesting.
The Grand Budapest Hotel was interesting.
Thank you. Has been pretty good, for some of it, but those are neither here or there.
Far
really, at this point. When
between.
this is the trailer that you're going to show me for the new Wes Anderson movie. Is he even trying anymore? I feel like he could direct from the fucking toilet at this point, and it would be the same fucking movie. Where's... What are you doing that's new? What are you doing that's different? You got something new to say?
Not only that,
anything?
How did people get off their asses to go to the theater to see this shit? I can't get any people to go see anything anymore, and yet people still go see these fucking movies. If there's ever a movie to be made to watch at home,
I don't know. How well do these do?
They all do fairly
this
well.
Can't do that well.
I mean, this probably does $15-20 million, which is fucking huge for a Wes Anderson movie.
I can't deny. Well, I know. I've seen what. I just watched the Academy Awards. You're probably right.
But this costs nothing. I mean, this.
What do I know?
This costs nothing to do. It's the same.
Oh no, players
he uses over and over. It's not clever anymore.
I mean, a Coppola helped write it. So
Great.
Let's tell you something. But I know that's why it's. That's what makes it even better.
To be fair, Jason Schwartzman's a Coppola as well.
But the actors will.
Did you know that?
Yes, he is. I know. So is, Dracula there.
Yeah, exactly. But, Nicolas Cage is as well. Yeah, there's a lot of Coppolas running around in Hollywood.
Point being, the actors in this, I guaranteed will take a cut to be in this movie, and they won't even be in it that 100%. Long because he has I mean, Schwartzman will be like in it for fucking forever because he's cheap as fuck.
Jeffrey Wright's gonna be in it barely. You know, Hanks has probably got a very.
But you
supporting.
saw the list, the laundry fucking list of people who are in this, like huge names and stuff. Like the biggest paid actor ever?
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. So she's only in it for a little bit.
He's the Woody Allen of our generation in that everybody lines up to be in these movies. Everybody wants to act like they're.
That's true.
You know that
these are the only movies Edward Norton will come out and do anymore.
It's strange that these scripts attract this level of talent because on the page, this shit has to read very, very dry. Very dry on all these
because
scripts.
It looks dry. What is the plot of this movie? I still don't know.
Who gives a shit? It's all about detached irony. That's what the movie's about. Clearly, it's what all of his movies are about.
Is it? I don't even understand. No, like Royal Tenenbaums. His other movies have a fucking plot. Rushmore, they have a plot. This movie has no plot. I don't understand the plot. What's happening in the movie?
I
don't even get it.
I lost the plot with his films back at Life Aquatic, and I never picked it up again.
Yeah, that one as well has a hard time with the plot, but this one seems worse. This seems like the worst one.
Just looking at the fake sets and the artificial kind of fabricated 1940s Hollywood look that he seems to covet and then also make fun of at the same time, and ultra intelligent people that are not interesting,
pretentious,
in the least, and
just say it, tongue-in-cheek pretentiousness. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's cutesy. It's too cute for your own fucking good. This is an acquired taste
some of them
that I've never acquired.
I like Royal Tenenbaums a lot. Bottle Rocket, I like.
Okay, Bottle Rocket, you got me there. You got me wrong, Bottle Rocket.
Yeah, but these are all older ones, by the way.
Yeah, that's the movie. That's his first movie, I believe. So and Rushmore will be the second. And I
liked Rushmore, but again, though, they had more to them. Not only in plot wise, but they were new, right? I guess maybe Brian De Palma had the same problem. Maybe everyone has the same problem. Kevin Smith seems to be going the opposite direction, but there are some filmmakers who just don't evolve as filmmakers. You know what I mean? Like they come out hot out the gate. M. Night Shyamalan, there you go. They come out hot out the gate, make a couple of movies, similar tone that kind of work, that prop them up a bit. And then after that, they just make the same shit over and over again. And it's not great. And no one really goes for it.
Some directors do this consciously and eat shit for it their whole career, like Michael Bay. And he gets stigmatized for that. And then you have darlings like this, Wes Anderson, and his contemporaries. David O. Russell seems to do the same movie quite often, over and over, with thematically.
I mean, that's true. But he eats shit, too, over that. I mean, he actually, he's fallen from grace at this point. For a bunch of reasons, but to the Michael Bay point, Michael Bay's making popcorn movies. I mean, I feel like that's a little bit different than people trying to make artistic movies and making the same artistic movie over and over again.
Michael Bay also doesn't write his own films. Wes Anderson continues to write the same stories.
That's true, and I never think of even though there's always artistic to everything that everyone creates and stuff, but I don't really think artistic when I think of Michael Bay. Like I don't necessarily want. When you get a good shootout scene, like I want a Michael Bay shootout scene. Like I don't want some artistic one all the time. Like that stuff makes sense to me as a popcorn level to sell, but for an artistic thing, I don't know, the same thing over and over again. Isn't that it gets too dry? It's just no. You need something different. Now you want to push the limits when it comes to art.
It's strange to me that Anderson can find the funding continually to make these kind of movies, and there is not a whole lot of diversity in these casts at all, and that doesn't ever get mentioned in his films.
Well, he has the cast, so maybe that's all it is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's, like I said, Woody Allen of this era.
If you can get that cast, you could probably get the distribution, right?
Yeah, because you got Scarlett Johansson and Woody Hanks, Allen, and once again, those names will sell in territories.
It's a huge cast. It's enormous. We just mentioned those two, but it's Jason Schwartzman, it's Bryan Cranston, it's Tilda Swinton, Edward.
Yeah, there's
Norton,
25
Adrian
names
Brody,
on the trailer. I mean, it's
Steve Carell is in this. Hong Chow, the girl that
do you know what that means?
You like so much for there. Margot Robbie's in this.
Every
William Dafoe.
fucking role will have a famous face.
Jeff Goldblum.
That just
Matt Dillon.
makes it more distracting. That's all that does. That just makes it more distracting.
That's what I'm saying. They're all in it for about 2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, but there was a lot of people in the Cannonball Run too. That movie sucked. It is what it is.
So you're comparing him now to Roger Corman.
Well, I just compared Wes Anderson to Michael Bay, so I think I've already pissed everybody else off. So I think we've already lost our audience on that. So it is what it is. Oh, yeah, but I think it's safe to say that I'm not looking forward to this one. Are you marking your calendar for Asteroid City?
I think this looks terrible, and I probably will not. I'll probably never see this.
Well, I want to recap tonight's show. We talked about Murder Mystery 2, which Trevor and I both said do not see that. On M3GAN, we had a split. I recommended it. Trevor did not recommend it, but just kind of borderline. I think you were on the fence with that, right? You kind of
watch it if you want.
Yeah,
He said, yeah, borderline
on that. On The Whale, you say it's the best picture of the year. I'm not far behind you. I do think it's an exceptional movie that should be seen by all. It is one of the best pictures of last year. And on Clerks 3, you were highly let down after having seen the first two, which rank among your favorite movies of all time. And I was just as let down, even though I'm not as big of a fan, but I did think that this was a pretty downbeat ending to a filmmaker's career.
Not a lot of fun either.
Yeah, not at all. So
maybe that's it.
Definitely don't recommend Clerks 3 on that. So we want to thank you guys for joining us on another episode of the Movie Mavericks podcast. Speaking for Trevor Anderson, I am Jason Rugard, and we are the Movie Mavericks.
Oh my, another magnificent episode has come to an end. If you're craving more, set your destination to MovieMavericks.com, Warp 9. Engage!